for you, in terms of art and the act of creation, what does it mean to you to be able to kind of highlight what we've talked about, these sorts of stories where people are struggling to just attain those basic human right freedoms, which should be given, or at least should be something that we all enjoy, but we live in a world where it isn't. What do you think art's role is in that? Or perhaps from your perspective, no pun on perspective, what is your role, do you think, that you bring to that fight?
Well,
I know it's a big question. I'm throwing the big ones at you, Matteo, but it's because I know you can answer them.
No, I can't, and I won't. I mean, I can't, and I will. But it's big, and so because it's big, it makes me feel even smaller. And before beginning this project and before meeting you and Bill, and I mean, I had really sincerely never thought that by doing hyper detailed drawing could lead to anywhere except making hyper detailed drawing and see what that can do to people who want to see hyper detailed drawing, which are not seen as very. This is not. They're not seen as very artistic, because sketches and there are other forms. Lines are unusual because they really do not exist. You can sketch and recreate patterns, and you create with painting the impression that, you know, between two areas of different colors there is a line in between. But lines are an abstraction from reality, and this is the connection with architecture. And so I never thought that putting my mind into these obsessive areas could lead to anywhere, but there has been a kind of a quantum jump or leap into another area, and to realize that by doing the very same thing and offering, as I said before, a small contribution to a debate that clearly wasn't, in many cases, was not met with the right temperature, with the right vision, with the right perspective. Perhaps I felt that if one can offer another viewpoint, because often all you need to not resolve a debate and turn it into a dialogue, all you need perhaps is to move to the side and look at the same situation from a slightly different viewpoint, which is why it is so hard to have people come to terms to things that are so obvious. I mean, I think human rights or these things you mentioned, which are much bigger than me, may be assimilated to air or oxygen. I mean, while you breathe, you never think about it. Imagine for a moment that you don't have air to breathe. I think at that moment you get into a panic mode. And I think human rights are just like that. There is a moment in which you breathe and oxygen isn't enough in the air. And what do? People don't understand you because they do just, you know, you have a little less or whatever. No, it must be like not having air. And I don't think that when there are debates about this, I don't think that when there are people who clash, I don't believe that either of the sides moves slightly, a few degrees to the meet the other. So I think art is a gigantic word, grandly misused, but it's only the fact that if you have one viewpoint, one angle that you can offer, everybody hits 90 degrees perpendicular to each other, and you have the luck of being shifted 20 degrees over, and you say, look, 1 second, I'm here 20 degrees over to the side, and I see the same thing you're talking about from this slightly different viewpoint. And it can be music, it can be a metaphor, it can be anything, it can be a window view. Look what people see of your places from another. Why don't you listen to the stories just by the most simple of all acts, which is stopping in front of a window? And that is a very, to say enriching is a euphemism, humbling, or it's a honor. So I am, and the other thing about so-called art is that if it does work, it works where you project it, perhaps, and that's a dream. I mean, you reach people, but at the same time, if you do reach people, I think physiologically you disappear. It's as if the extension of your being gets longer and then longer and then longer. So you become a part of a network, and you should disappear. When you have the lack of drawing window views for 15 years. My daughter was born and I was drawing window views. And after 13 or 14, I kept doing window views. And she told me, why don't you stop? Can't you do something else? But at the same time, you maybe reach people or something elsewhere, and you feel this sense of diminishing. And unfortunately, art often produces the other strange effect, which is one feels bigger or more important, and that's something clearly wrong. But because the other effect is that maybe by doing a very simple act for you, which is the hyper detailed drawings, in reality you may be able to reach many more people than you imagined, and then you slowly it's like you get diluted into a larger mass, and it is good. I think it is a very good feeling, and it is you feel, even if I'm in this closet, you feel somehow that maybe you are more connected. And that's all you can do. I think I wish I was more active. I wish I was more of a real activist. I wish I had the courage to do other things, and just having had the chance to slightly open this window onto your world, it's an honor.
I love what you've said, and I think that it's really quite profound what you've done and what you continue to do. And I suppose why the connection there between art and creativity and human rights is so compelling, because sometimes just expressing a point of view, or being able to create a viewpoint or create something that can, depending on the times in the day, depending on where you find yourself in history, it can be incredibly thought-provoking to the point where it sparks a conversation that is difficult to have, or to the point where it starts a resistance, or it starts a movement. It starts to change things in society, which should be essential. And in this case, I suppose we're all, agreeing that something like art for human rights should be an essential privilege that every human being has, but unfortunately doesn't. And so until that point is reached, something like art will always be something that can draw attention to that. The act of creation, the act of seeing is something that allows that resistance to stay active, until those things are realized, until freedom and until human rights is something that, more people rather than not can enjoy, because that perspective and their perspective matters.